Hey folks, Steve with TacMed TV here. Today I'm going to talk to you about something different than what we normally talk about on the channel. Today is September 11th, 2017, 16 years after the terrorist attack in New York City, Washington, D.C., and basically the whole country. I'm going to talk to you about my experiences that day. I was at work. I was nowhere near New York City. I was nowhere near Washington, D.C., and I was nowhere near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But I do want to talk to you and tell you about my experience that day. Now, with that said, of all of my videos, this is the video I want you folks to comment on, okay? I want you guys to comment on what you remember from that day. This is one of those events that it doesn't matter how much time passes, how old you get, whatever happens, you always remember where you were and what you were doing. So please put that in the comment section below and let me know, because this video is probably going to be on here for a long time. It's probably going to be on here until YouTube decides that it's not going to be on here anymore, because I'm not going to take it down. So for people that weren't around when this happened, and for people that may want a better understanding years from now, they can see what people that lived through it, that were here when it happened, so they can see what they remember and what they thought about it. So please leave a comment in the section below on this video. To me, that's very important, because there's no telling who's going to see these comments after us. So with that being said, like I said, I was working that day. Excuse me, I was working that day, and I got up probably sometime around 6:30, 7 o'clock. We were on 24-hour shifts back then. And, you know, I got up, got dressed, got the uniform on, got my car, drove to work. And I was at a station that's probably considered, at least then it was considered a slow station compared to what the other stations were doing. And I remember getting there, and my partner Shannon, was there, and the TV in the day room was off, which was kind of odd. It was never off. So, and I was completely oblivious to everything that was going on. I don't listen to the radio in the morning. It's too much talk usually. I want to hear music. So I'm listening to music, I'm sure, on my way to work. So I haven't heard any news, hadn't heard anything about what's going on. So we decided, well, let's go check our truck. And I thought, well, I'm going to turn the television on, see what's going on in the world. And the station I was at, the day room was right next to the bay, and there was just a door. And a lot of times we would leave the door open so we could hear the phone ring in the station, or, you know, listen to whatever was on TV or whatever. So we were going to check the truck. So Shannon went out to start checking the truck. I turned the TV on, and it was a picture of the World Trade Center towers, and one of them was smoking. And I was like, man, they got a fire at the World Trade. That's not good. That's going to be some real work today for those folks up there, man. That's serious. And then I heard the newscaster say that it was that a plane had flown into the tower, and I thought, how do you fly a plane into the towers? It didn't click. You know, nothing was clicking yet. And I've never been to New York City before then or since then, and I need to make that trip. I need to go to the memorial, and that is on my list of things to do. But I thought, how do you do that? But I had no frame of reference of how large those towers were. So I could see where it had gone in and what it was doing, and I thought, well, you know, it's something maybe like a King Air or a Gulfstream or a Lear or something like that of that size has flown into the tower. And had no clue that it was an airliner. So I hollered at her and I said, hey, come here and check this out. I said, somebody has flown a plane and crashed into the World Trade Center, one of the towers. And we sit there and watched, and then before even the newscasters realized what had happened or what was going on, we saw the second plane come in and hit the South Tower. And I remember saying right then and there, I said, we're under attack. I said, this is bad. This became a bad day for the entire country. And we just stood there like, you know, just speechless. We didn't know what to say. We didn't know. We were still trying to wrap our heads around what had just happened and what we had just seen transpire on the television. So real quick, we went and checked the outside of the truck, and we then grabbed pretty much every bag that's in the truck, the drug box, the back then the teal bag, which is our first in bag, pediatric kit, the extra airway kit. We brought all this stuff into the day room to check it, and we sat there and checked our equipment while we were watching the news to try to keep in mind with keep abreast of what was going on, and still trying to wrap our heads around, you know, the implications, what was happening, what was going to happen. But immediately you knew, you know, that people in the line of work that we do were going to be very, very busy. And I'm sure you all have seen the video. It's been all over the History Channel and Discovery Channel, especially this past weekend and today. You know, there's some fire dudes standing on the street, they're talking, and then you hear the plane come over, and then the camera pans up, and then you see the plane hit the tower. And then you immediately hear one of the firefighters say, call into his dispatch and say, and tell him to send every available ambulance to that location. They just had a plane hit the World Trade Center tower. So with that going on, you know, we're just fixed to the television. And so at this point, I'll go into a timeline of how things transgressed, and when I get to a point where I have something else to add, I'll add it. But at 7:59 Eastern Standard Time, American Airlines Flight 11, which was a Boeing 767 with 92 people on board, left Boston for their flight. At 8:14, United Airlines Flight 175, which was also a Boeing 767, loaded with 65 people, left Boston. And then at 8:20, American Airlines Flight 77, which was a Boeing 757, left Dulles International with 64 people. And then at 8:41, United Airlines Flight 93, which was a Boeing 757 with 49 people on board, left Newark International. All right. At 8:46 Eastern Standard Time, Flight 11, the first one, American Airlines Flight 11, Flight 11 had taken off at 8:46. It hit the North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floor. At 9:03, this is what we saw when we turned the television on. At 9:03, Flight 175 hit the South Tower between the 75th and 85th floors. Having trouble still trying to relay everything. And then at 9:37, Flight 77 hit the Pentagon, and when that happened, I knew without a doubt that this was going to be a very bad day for the country. We didn't know how many more flights were up that had been hijacked. That seemed to be the big news. What was up there? I know NORAD and NEADS had scrambled some fighters, and for the first time, if I remember right, for the first time in American history, we had the American military flying combat air patrols over United States airspace, continental United States airspace. So that's a big deal. At 8:47, right after the first plane hit, that's when that video that I referenced just a second ago, FDNY, NYPD, and the Port Authority Police Department went to work doing what they do. doing the job. At 9:59, the South Tower collapsed. And I remember thinking that, you know, how many people were they able to get out? How many of the firefighters and EMTs and paramedics and police officers were still in there? Because on a normal day, each tower has about 50,000 people in it. So that's going through my mind of how many people may have just died. And then at 10:28, the North Tower collapsed, and that was 102 minutes after it had been first hit. And we're sitting there just speechless. We don't know. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on and why it's happening. All this is still a mystery at this point. And the reason I tell you all of this, well, before I even tell you that, at 10:28 the North Tower collapsed. At 10:07 is when Flight 93 crashed in Shanksville, PA, because those folks knew what was going on. They had figured out that the hijackers were flying planes into buildings, and those folks stepped up to the plate and tried to retake the aircraft. God bless them. Outstanding work. Their actions saved no telling how many lives on the ground by doing what they did. So, and I tell you all of this because that was the time when this happened. This is the moment that I decided to get into tactical EMS. This is the time. This is the moment when I decided, okay, I'm going to get into tactical medicine. I can see the future. I know what the future is going to be as far as what is going to be expected of law enforcement and fire and EMS. I'm going to get ahead of the curve and get involved at that level. So in the spring of 2002, I believe it was the spring of 2002, I went to Sterling, Virginia to Heckler and Koch's International Training Division and took their tactical medicine course. It was a week-long course then run by Dr. Lawrence High School, who now runs the International School of Tactical Medicine. I'll put a link in the description below for that place. If you've not been a student there, you need to go. That is the premier place to train and become a tactical medic. Okay, make sure you check that out. He's extremely knowledgeable, and he has a lot of experience, real-world experience, providing special operations medical support. So anyway, with that being said, fast forward to 2014, and I was at another SWAT school in Cincinnati, Ohio, that was put on by the Cincinnati Police Department, Hamilton County Police Association, and the Ohio Highway Patrol. Fabulous school. While I was there, one of the speakers in that course, and I was there with some friends of mine, Brad Kendal was there with us. He was one of the first tactical medics on our team. When I was building that team, he was one of the first guys I went to. So this was his first SWAT school that he was going to be a part of. Another friend of mine that was there, Harley Stevenson, who at the time was a flight nurse with a, I think he was based in E-Town at that time. It might have been Middlesboro, Kentucky, or it may have been Elizabethtown. I'm not sure. But anyway, he came with us to get the training too, and we had a great week. It was great training. One of the speakers while we were there was a man by the name of John Bushing. Now, John Bushing, and I'll put a link to an article written about him in the description below. But John was a New York City Police Department detective. He was also a paramedic, and he was also on the ESU, NYPD ESU, the Emergency Services Unit. And I remember him telling us his experiences that day because he was one of the first responders to this attack in New York City. was telling us that he had been working with several other people for a while on building a tactical medical unit within the ESU. All right, 9/11 was their first call out. After that, everything had been approved, equipment had been purchased, and training had been conducted. This was the first opportunity for the ESU tactical medics to get out and show their worth and do the job. John was a phenomenal guy, had some great stories to tell beyond just the 9/11 stuff, and some anecdotal things too, but specifically about the 9/11 stuff. I remember him telling us after the class, we got together. We got together later for drinks, and we got to talk to him one-on-one, which was a remarkable opportunity. And he was telling us that the plan was for them to board some helicopters, fly to the Trade Center towers, fast rope or rappel down with some K-12 saws, and they were going to slice the antennas. The tops of those towers was just full of antennas. They were going to slice these antennas down. They were going to start landing aircraft on top of the towers to evacuate the people that were above the impact zones. Okay, but when they got there, of course, the heat, the air currents, and the smoke, they couldn't do it. That was the original plan. They were going to try to get people out that way, and they could not do it because they just could not see for all the smoke. And then, like I said, the turbulence from the heat and the air currents and everything, they just could not make that work. So they had to abort that plan. So he ended up, long story short, he ended up on the ground with a search and rescue team. And as soon as he rolled up to where he was supposed to be, he was notified that they had somebody in the rubble, and that somebody was Port Authority Police Sergeant John McLaughlin. If you have not seen the movie World Trade Center, go see it. I'll tell you right now, it's a hard watch. I've only been able to watch it twice. Don't know if I can watch it again. It's very hard for me to watch. You will tear up. It's a very powerful movie, but it's that movie kind of centers around Officer Will Jimeno and Sergeant McLaughlin, and what they did and went through during the attacks in New York. But John was one of the guys that would, when they had already got Officer Jimeno out, and John was one of the guys that was going in to take care of Sergeant McLaughlin. He was pinned basically from the waist down. Sergeant McLaughlin was pinned from the waist down. They had to go about 20 feet down into the rubble, into this small little passageway where they were able to get into him. And I'm not going to go into the patient care and stuff like that. I've got an article I'm going to link in the description below where John tells it in his own words what he did. It's very, very good read, and he describes it in such a way that you can really feel what was going on. But John was part of the effort that got Sergeant McLaughlin freed and got him out. And this guy, to talk to him, he doesn't really think he did anything special. He was doing his job in true form, just like most of us. We're not special people. We have a job to do, and we just do our job. But he's somebody that I really look up to, somebody that I respect a lot. He's just a fabulous guy. So anyway, I'll put that in the link below so you can check that out. Please read that article. It's a GEMS article. It's well worth the read. Won't take you more than 5-10 minutes. Some different things I want to bring up to you. Some different numbers, and I found like a news by the numbers kind of site that had some totals on it. And I'm going to go ahead and read those off to you. I've got them listed here in front of me, and I'm going to read those off to you. And you let this sink in, okay? When you hear this, you let this sink in. And think about how many people's lives were changed because of this event. Not just in New York and Shanksville in Washington D.C., but all over the country. The way we live has changed. So here are some numbers. The total number of fatalities during the New York attack was 2,753. 343 of those were FDNY, and those were firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics. Okay, those are my brothers and sisters that lost their lives doing the job. NYPD lost 23 officers. The Port Authority PD lost 37 officers. All of those are part of the public safety community. They're my brothers and sisters that were lost. They're your brothers and sisters that were lost. They're your friends and neighbors that were lost. Employees in the towers that were working there that day that were lost was 2016. Okay, 2016 people that had just gone to work that morning, just trying to make a living, and got wrapped up in something horrible. 2016 of those people died. All right. Families are people that lost a spouse or a partner. 1,609 people lost their spouse or their partner that day. The number of bodies that were found that were intact was, I think, 291. Okay. The number of human remains that were found was 21,906. The families that got no remains, 1,717. And this is the one that kind of sucks the most. The children that lost a parent that day, 3,051. So those kids had to grow up without a parent. Maybe both. I think there were some that even lost both. So it was a horrible day. And the percent of the Americans that actually knew somebody that was hurt or killed at the World Trade was 20%. 20% of Americans knew somebody that was hurt or killed during that attack. Let that sink in. Okay, think about that for a minute. How many lives were touched by that incident, by that attack, by radical Islamic terrorists? Now, I'm not going to get political. That's not what we do here. That's not my job. You all have, people that watch this, you've got your own political views, and you're welcome to them. I'm not going there. But think long and hard, about what happened that day and how it changed lives, and let it sink in. And people that know me know I'm not real big on sympathy. I don't like sympathy. I don't think we should feel sorry. I think we should strive more for empathy and try to relate and try to understand where people are coming from, why they feel the way they do, and try to walk a mile in their shoes, I guess. Try to empathize. So you try to think about what that would feel like to you if you had lost a parent, or if you had lost a son or a daughter, or if you had lost a wife or a husband. Think about that. Okay. One thing that has bothered me about September 11th, pretty much since it happened, was that as time goes by, people forget. And one of the reasons I did this video is to try to make sure people don't forget. Okay? People that day just went to work to do their jobs, to make a living, and they died. Let that sink in. Okay. The firefighters, the police, The EMTs and the paramedics that went to work that day didn't expect to be working something like that, but they did. They knew what they were walking into. They knew that they might not come out, but they went. They went anyway. It doesn't matter if it was in New York or in Washington, D.C. or in Shanksville. Public safety, the police, the fire, EMS, showed up and did a job. And they all did a fine job. They did great. So with that being said, just let all that sink in that I've told you. And if you see law enforcement or fire or EMS people, tell them thanks. You know, we don't get that a whole lot. Law enforcement, especially right now, the way things are going in the country. But take the time, because when you need it, they're going to be the ones that show up. Okay. Whew, sorry. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know it was kind of a long one. Apologize for that, but I just had some things that I think need to be said and needed to be recorded. So somewhere around here, I'll put the subscription button. If you like what you're seeing on the channel, you know, next video, I promise we're going to go back to something that's not as heavy. We're going to get back to the normal way of things, and we'll get that rolling out to you. Going to try to do some shooting tomorrow. And that reminds me too, we've got hurricanes going on. You know, we had Harvey in Texas, and we had Irma that's coming out of Florida right now, running through Georgia. Okay, so keep those people in your thoughts and prayers as well, along with all the families and all the people that were involved in September 11th, 2001. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers as well. I'll sprinkle some videos around here for you guys to check out some of the other stuff, and probably throughout the whole video I'll probably put cards up so you can check out some different things. But I really appreciate you watching the video and taking the time. It means a lot to me. Again, leave me a comment in the section below. Tell me your experience, what you remember of that day in 2001. Alright, so with that being said, my name is Steve with TacMed TV. Thank you very much for watching. You guys stay safe.